Maximize Business Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term, sustainable value in their businesses. So in this episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, Conni Francini. She is the president and CEO of Clarity Consulting. Clarity's mission is to instill hope and enable success for high achievers, something that every business owner probably is. More about that in a minute. It's rare that I meet someone the first time and ask them to be on the podcast immediately, but that's exactly what happened here this week. I literally met Conni 2 days before she joined me today to record this podcast as the result of an introduction from my sidekick, Kim Benson, who I talk about a lot. Turns out that Conni and I run in some of the same circles, and I thought her message is so relevant and timely for today's business owners. So I boldly asked her to jump on this podcast, and here we are. So welcome to Maximize Business Value, Conni. Tell us a little bit about Clarity Consulting.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been fun to get to know you this week and have this conversation today. Clarity Consulting is, as you said, really founded in the mission to instill hope and enable success. I myself am a high achiever, overachiever, recovering perfectionist. So share a lot with the folks that I work with, working with executives and business owners across a variety of industries who feel like they've gotten to a place where they feel really overwhelmed and frustrated. Some of them even find themselves in the place of no longer enjoying their business at all, and helping them through the framework that I've created to create the success they really want, create the kind of business and lifestyle that they want with more balance and confidence and calm.
Balance, confidence, and calm are three wonderful things that I think everybody sort of strives for, right? I hear balance constantly as I'm talking with business owners who are trying to balance the rigors of a business and sometimes, a young family, things like that. But so what is your background and why did you start Clarity?
So I have, throughout my whole life and career, I've always been a teacher, guide, mentor, coach, really always loved that aspect of whatever it was I was doing. In my last corporate role, I was the senior executive at a publishing company, fast-growing company, really helped to lead the change from still a very family-owned, family-oriented business into a much more mature organization, and really grew a lot along the way. But ultimately ended up experiencing executive burnout and felt, I know we'll talk more about that later, but really felt like a real failure at that point in my professional career and kind of lost track of my why. So when I left corporate and wanted to start my own business, I really wanted to create a solution for other high achievers who really felt like they should be capable and really wanted to be successful, really driven by success and passionate about the work that they did, and help them to create that picture of success without ending up burnout like I did.
So I'm sure that you're gonna share that story with us a little bit later on. But I think at any point in an executive's career, in a manager, almost in anybody's career, you might experience a little bit of burnout, which kind of causes stress in your life, the kind of stress that you had. A great friend of mine, Jeff York, who I just saw the other night, he is one of the founders of Paycom. It's now a publicly traded payroll business with a market cap of nearly $20 billion as of this recording. He recently said to me that he banned the word stressed for his sales team. Now he has literally thousands of salespeople, all over the world. And he said it's okay to say that you're frustrated or that you're angry or that you're upset or that you're even burned out, but not stressed. So the theory is that if you can more clearly define the emotion, then you can find a way to deal with it. So, why don't we start with a definition? What is burnout?
Great question. So burnout has essentially three components. And the first is exhaustion. So when people are experiencing some level or some stage of burnout, there is this sense of exhaustion. I've lost my energy. I get up in the morning and I just don't feel like I have the energy to get started. It's hard for me to keep pace with projects and things at work or in my role. And so that sense of exhaustion, obviously, is going to have a huge impact on the work that you do. The second is this cynicism, or think of it more as like negativity or a detachment from your work. So there's often we'll hear people will share, nothing is going to change. There's nothing I can do to change, these challenges I'm having in my business. Nothing is going to get better. Nothing I do is going to make a difference. Or also losing sight of the why behind your business, right? Nothing that we're doing doesn't really matter anyway, right? What we're doing isn't really making an impact. And so that detachment is the piece that is indicative of sort of losing the heart for what you're doing. And then the third component of burnout is this lack of efficacy. So think in terms of poor performance, missing deadlines, being slow to make decisions, resisting decisions, holding on to work when you really, are capable of delegating that to other people on your team, loss of innovation, right? Loss of creativity, all of those performance elements come into play the further you get into burnout. And ultimately, burnout actually has 5 stages. So it's one of the things that I misunderstood in my own burnout experience. I thought burnout had to be only for folks like emergency room doctors who, ended up at a treatment facility for burnout. That was the only picture of what burnout is. And burnout actually has 5 stages, going from, this is new and these are new challenges and I'm finding ways to manage them. Certainly there's some stress and some anxiety and some, maybe some efficacy issues there, all the way to the 5th stage, which is chronic burnout, which also has things like chronic anxiety, chronic depression. Those are things that are, that really debilitating stage. But I do think it's important in having this discussion, and for your business owners in the audience listening, to really to know that there are those multiple stages, and burnout isn't just that stage of, this is it, I completely can't function at all, and I, need to be out on medical leave. To recognize the stages earlier on so that they can take steps to prevent, hitting those end stages.
So many times, that you lose your why, right? Why you're doing things. And I would frequently say in many of my businesses, but the thing that comes to mind is my most recent business that I sold 4 years ago. We were a technology company for restaurants, right? And I would routinely stand in front of my team and I would say, look, we're not saving the whales. We're not curing cancer. But we are providing a necessary service that is helping others achieve their goals. And that is worthwhile work. And so it's thinking about that kind of worthwhile work that you're doing. And it's sometimes hard. The other thing that you mentioned is kind of the lack of efficacy, which I actually teach a technique. It's something that I think I may have invented, but I haven't found anybody else that's written on it. I call it intentional procrastination. Procrastination can get in your way of making decisions, right? But I use a technique that I call intentional procrastination to bring out better solutions from other people. Right. I don't I won't give an answer, and they'll say, why aren't you helping? Why aren't you telling us, giving us the green light on this? And it's because we haven't reached the right conclusion yet, right? And so I intentionally procrastinate decisions. Some people probably have accused me of loss of efficacy before in that process, because it wasn't even something that I even understood. I just did it naturally. So that is interesting. The stages of burnout. And I, like you, I didn't really think about people. I do think of certainly emergency room physicians or nurses or high stress jobs, airline pilots, right? But also executives in businesses. I think that there's probably a lot higher burnout rate than most people would realize. Who are the people that are at most risk of burnout?
Well, everybody seems to be at risk of burnout these days as the rates are rising. There is some data, depending on the different studies that you look at, but there was a really good study from Gallup recently that showed that the percentages of working professionals who are experiencing burnout is somewhere between 30 and 50%. And it's higher for women than it is for men. For women, it is almost near 50%. So those women who feel like they've experienced some stage of burnout within the last year on a regular basis, it's pretty stunning to think about. So when I go in and I work with teams and go and speak to an organization or a group, that's one great statistic to look around the room and say, okay, how many women do we have here with us today? Probably half of those are experiencing or have experienced some aspect of burnout, right, within recent months. And that, that's a huge impact on an organization. The other trend, which is I find fascinating, is that the folks who are most at risk of burnout are your high achievers, your most capable people, your most driven, your most passionate, and the kinds of folks you feel like, which is what I felt, who should be able to figure out a way through it, who should be able to manage that. But it's that sense of passion, that drive, that commitment, right? That I always want to deliver. I'm known as someone who gets things done. That is actually predisposing those folks to burnout because of their sort of personality traits and their values and the way that they work. And from a business owner's perspective, if you sit in that seat, that's you most at risk. And at the same time, if you look around your team, you've got some really great high performers on your team who are probably more at risk. And that would be something to watch for. And as you said, you're talking about, emergency room physicians and these high stress industries. And that is true. There is a lot of burnout in the medical industry, in the frontline worker industry, but there is also high burnout in industries like design, because it's so creative and there is really there's no hard and fast line that says this is complete or not complete, or this is done or not done. There's a lot of back and forth with the client, right? There's no one way to say a design project is complete. I worked in publishing. I feel like it's very much the same way. Publishing there's always a moving target, right? There's no way to say this book or this curriculum program, there's no blueprint to say this is exactly what you're going to do, right? That's constant solving of problems and ideas and innovation that makes it very challenging. And it's also very people-oriented industries. That's what I find as well. A lot of my clients, they work in those people-oriented industries like accounting, where they're working with other people to deliver their product or service. So it is much farther beyond those emergency room physicians and firefighters and folks we might typically think of who would struggle with burnout.
Yeah, you said a mouthful. I mean, I used to own a software company, and I used to joke with our team, when will the software be done?
Right.
Software, it's never done, right?
It's done.
Yeah, same thing with my latest book. I actually drafted my latest book, which is now in editing, 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I kept kibitzing with it and just going back to it and adding more and doing stuff. And finally, I realized in my mind, I said, geez, I could add and edit and add new chapters to this book for as long as I shall live. some point I need to get it into the hands of the people that it's going to benefit, right? And so I can always add beyond that. So you said a mouthful. A lot of things are just never done. There's no finish line.
Right. And to speak to that point, when that manuscript comes in to the editorial team who's going to develop it, one of the jokes that was true of our company is the designers would laugh and tease the editorial folks. If there wasn't a to print deadline, the editors would just keep editing. For the very same reasons of what you just said. There's just always some way to make it better. There's some new idea. I woke up today and I think, oh, there's, this new thread, through line that I hadn't thought of before that I really want to draw out. And I see that same situation, same challenge with business owners across industries. There's always a new idea. There's always a new strategy. There's always a new market. There's always a new service to be developed. That breadth of possibility is exciting and also overwhelming sometimes.
It is. It's funny. You try to strive for perfection, but I've found imperfections in almost every book I've ever read. And I read 50 books a year. But even in my own book, I said, okay, let's try to eliminate. There's one error in the book, one that has been pointed out. And to my knowledge, I'm the only person that's ever actually identified it. No one has ever brought it to my attention. I know it's there, and it really frustrates me because it's printed, right? But no one else has ever found it. So there you go, audience. Go pick up a copy of Maximize Business Value. Tell me where the error was. Because I'm probably the only person that stands out like a giant sore thumb to me, right?
Of course it does.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that, kind of these people, these high-performing people and the way they work. As I think about high-performing executives and really business owners, one of the questions I like to ask business owners is, when was the last time you took a vacation? Because they don't. They don't. Oh, well, I took a long weekend, with my family. Okay, so you turned off your email and you went to the beach? Oh, no. I worked in the mornings. And if you can't get away, then you are probably rapidly on a path toward burnout. More importantly, though, it doesn't do any favors to the business. The business then is dependent on you, and that's a problem. So folks that can't get away, I think are probably at high risk. You're the expert on this. And so I used to deal with that with my executive team. I would force them out to take a minimum of 2 weeks at a time. At least once a year, take 2 weeks of vacation, 3 if you feel up to it, because I like to take 3-week vacations. I actually took basically the whole month of December off this year, and because I can go and refresh and renew, and it's not like I'm not doing anything. It's just, but I can be more thoughtful and intentional about my why, right, and why I'm doing those things. So if you don't take vacations, do that, and be on the lookout for those people that can't take vacations. By the way, when I sent them on those 2-week vacations, as soon as 5 o'clock hit on that Friday and they're leaving, I called IT and I said, shut down their email. Or remove their remote access. And you turn it back on in 2 weeks kind of thing, because that kind of forces people out. So now that's kind of a long story, but I know that you'd mentioned before that you're a victim or you're a burnout survivor.
Yeah.
You were a victim of burnout. Would you be willing to share that experience with us?
Yeah. So, it's interesting.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah. It's so interesting to look back and think about, that year or so leading up to my ultimate crash with burnout. On the outside, I was flying high. I was a senior executive, a growing company, presenting to the board of directors, keynoting to our sales team, flying all over the country, meeting with customers, doing presentations and focus groups, building a phenomenal team, creating great partnerships. Just everything, I think, on the outside seemed to be flying on all cylinders, moving into a new house, traveling internationally with my family. Things seemed to be great. One Monday morning, I woke up and just completely choked with anxiety and panic attack and ended up at the urgent care clinic. Literally couldn't go to the office. And I was terrified. And I think, although I say one day this just happened, what I came to learn is that burnout was really creeping up on me for years. I can look back and see the evolution of sleeping problems. I can see, stomach issues. I can see me, a former marathoner, really kind of losing my mojo, if you will, on running, and a series of injuries, and just kind of wasn't really engaging in that anymore. I could look back at, later and see all of that, but I didn't see it in those years leading up to it. And so I ended up being out on medical leave, and then on unlimited partial schedule for a couple of months. And, ultimately when I came back to, back into the role, I felt like things were going to be great. This is going to be good. I feel like I'm really recovered. But, in the end, it wasn't very long, just a couple of weeks before symptoms were creeping back again. And I knew I just really had to make a change. I knew I really wanted a change. And so that was part of my decision to leave corporate and start my company and create a solution for others who were in, there had to be other people in my same position. Right. And I felt so alone. I felt like I was the only one. And I really, really wanted to help be the guide and be the partner and help shepherd people away from, that place that I had ended up, but, before they hit that spot. So
Almost in a real sense, you started your business before you even kind of had recovered from burnout, is what I'm hearing. And it was almost a therapy for you then to help you overcome burnout. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about earlier was sort of losing your why. And I really wanted to get reconnected with what my why is. And, as a senior executive, there's you're driven by, metrics and strategy and new product ideas. And, there's so many things that I think I got so hyper focused on. I knew I was losing touch of the mentoring and a lot of the guidance and whatnot in my role because of how we were growing and all of the different strategic things we were doing. But starting my company allowed me to come back to that and say, what have I always really loved? I've always really loved helping other people see their potential for what they can create in whatever that space or role is, and then actually helping them create it. I'm a project manager by heart. I love a clipboard, I love project planning. And I think that's why I love product development. And so there was just a great way to reconnect with what I love to do and a lot of my very natural, easy strengths that give me energy and create that, in my business.
So really, I mean, the way you told it here, one Monday you woke up and there it was. I mean, you didn't really, it wasn't 2 weeks leading up to it, like I'm feeling lethargic or anything, just basically boom, there you are, right?
Right. I hadn't told anybody. My husband, I called my husband and he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you can't go to work? I said, I don't know, but I can't go to work. I cannot go to work today. I have absolutely fallen off, the ledge. And I hadn't told him, I hadn't owned up to anything to him. I hadn't really owned up to anything to myself either. So it was hard. It was a hard place to be in. It was hard to go from high flying senior executive and then to be told by my physician, you have three to-do items. One is you have to take a shower while you're home. 2 is you have to get out of the house and just take a walk. No marathoning. He's like, I don't want you to go crazy with some big aspirational. We're going to keep everything very low and slow burn. Take a shower, get out and take a walk and take a nap. I was so sleep deprived. I can't even imagine how I functioned. I get probably twice as much sleep now as I did before, twice as much. I don't know how I functioned. I really don't know how I functioned.
But in hindsight, you look back and you see all those things building up, right?
Right.
But suddenly it was there. So funny. I always say distance provides clarity, right? When you think back to things, man, I should have seen this coming. Sounds like Sounds like your story as well. I've actually had a situation like that where I just literally couldn't get out of bed, and my wife was my physician. And she looked at me. I'm notoriously an early riser. I get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock every day. I'm at my desk at 5. My peak work hours are like 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I can get more done in that time than most people can get done in a week. And I'm very focused. But that particular morning, Karen was taking our children to the zoo. It was a Friday. It was like a preschool thing. And she got up, took a shower. She came out, and I'm still in bed. She says, "What are you doing?" I said, I can't get up. I can't get out of bed. And she said, "Get your ass out of bed. Get a shower. We're going to the zoo." And it was the kind of medicine I needed. So,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It sounds like your doctor is the same way. Take a shower, take a walk, take a nap. I like that. In fact, I'm going to do that right after this podcast. So, of course, this podcast is specifically for business owners. So let's talk a little bit about how burnout impacts businesses. Some may view burnout as kind of a health and wellness or mental issue. How can high burnout rates impact a business?
Yeah, this is definitely kind of an eye-opening discussion that I think is important for your listeners. Burnout isn't contained only to let's implement a employee meditation program and that's going to be the solution, because burnout truly can have a business-wide, organization-wide impact. So obviously, it can impact if you have employees who are experiencing burnout. It can impact your medical leave rates, right? And you've got people out on medical leave for an extended period of time. I was out for a couple of months as a senior executive. Surely that had an impact, right, on my department and my organization. Then you have high turnover potentially, and those loss of those people through that turnover is one thing. But we also know that when you have high turnover rates, that also can contribute to a negative culture within those who are still there working in the organization, right? When they're seeing people going out on medical leave, or they're knowing that people are leaving because of burnout, that can, increase anxiety and stress, and impact performance for others on the organization. They're having to take on the load, right? Or they're, mentally worried about if they're going to be the next one who will be impacted. On the operational side, you've got things like missed deadlines, right? Innovation. Again, it comes back to if you're not feeling invested in the business or in your role, if you are not performing up to your capabilities, that's going to be impacted across the organization. You're going to have rising costs. Maybe you have poor customer service. You have people who are, stressed and exhausted on your customer service phone lines. That's not going to provide the kind of world-class client experience that you want to deliver, right? So I think you can see this impact happening not only within HR and things like turnover and medical leave, but operationally in sales. I work with a lot of sales leaders and business development folks, right? Because of that same kind of challenges. You don't want your sales team to be experiencing burnout, and sales is really key. So it really can affect the entire organization, especially if it is, beyond one or two people, and it's really becoming a bigger trend across your staff.
You mentioned, how you could damage your reputation as an employer. Of course, somebody who's facing these kinds of things, then they become perhaps grumpy and hard to deal with, and that's a real challenge. I remember years ago, probably 25 years ago, I was running a big company that had branches all over the country, and we notoriously would go in and hold town hall meetings with all the employees at the branches, right? And so I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and having a town hall meeting, and we always rewarded employees for asking questions. We said there's no such thing as a dumb question, and we carried stacks of $2 bills, and we handed out $2 bills. By the way, we were the largest consumer of $2 bills. All the $2 bills in the United States were sent to the Jacksonville Fed because that's where we got them, and so we would just hand out $2 bills like water. One question that just caught me off guard from an employee was, "What's the hardest thing about your job?" And I said, wow, that is a really great question. I need to think about that. Can I get back to you? Will you be here in the morning? Because I'll be back in the morning. Let me think about that overnight. So the next morning I came in and grabbed a cup of coffee and I went and found this employee and I said, I think I know what it is. And he said, what's that? And I said, I have to be on my game every day without fail. And I can't have a bad day, because imagine, if you will, I'm here for a day and a half. If I'm having a bad day, I can destroy this business and I could knock it off balance for months by having a bad day. So I can't even have a bad day. That's the hardest thing about my job, is when I'm having a bad day, I can't have a bad day. And so it really can impact businesses more than business owners know. So one last question before we take a quick break. Are there signs of burnout that business owners can look for, perhaps in themselves or in their key employees or even in their frontline employees?
Yeah, I think it comes back to those three key areas, right? Those signs of burnout. So the exhaustion is, if you're having trouble sleeping, that is critical. That is absolutely critical. And if you hear that from any of your staff, that should be a warning sign right away. Sleep is just absolutely critical to doing your best work and being the best human being for your own personal life, whether that's you as the business owner or anyone who's on your staff. That would be one, I think, really key warning sign to look for is trouble with sleep. The second would be this growing sense of sort of negativity. That I've sort of given up. I don't really know how to solve this problem, and I'm not even really going to try. Especially if it is a shift from previously your mindset or your approach to something like problem solving, or you see that in one of your staff members. If there's been a shift, from I'm usually positive and productive and engaged and, really, fully invested in what we're doing or in my role, and that changes in any way, that would be another really key sign to look out for. And then the third would be performance issues, starting to miss deadlines, starting to be a roadblock. If a manager is coming into you and saying, I really need you, to make a decision on, XYZ thing that you told me you were going to make a decision on, because now we're getting held up with this, client project or, this new implementation we're doing. If you are really becoming the bottleneck in your business, that's got to be a sign as well. I think those would be some of the most common signs that I hear from my clients that I work with. And I would say the number one word I hear is overwhelmed. It's sort of a general, I'm just overwhelmed. I have too much to do. I'm in the weeds. I'm frustrated. I feel like I can't get anything done. I went through a busy week and I don't even know what I did throughout the week. Those are the kinds of things that people think, I just need to be more productive. I just need to do time management better, but they really could be indicative of those earlier stages of burnout.
Cynicism, when you mentioned that's not always a sign of burnout. Sometimes there are people who are just cynical, and I always try to employ one of them more for comic relief than anything.
Yeah, okay.
So I think what your point is that it's sort of a change in that behavior, right?
Right.
If it gets pressure or someone who's not cynical suddenly becomes that way. I mean, This is the thing. So those are all great points. And we do need to get enough sleep. We do need to keep that positive attitude. And we do need to try and drive for, to being effective in our business. So great things to look for. We need to take a break, though. We're talking with Conni Francini. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Every business will eventually transition. Some internally to employees and managers, and some externally to third-party buyers. Mastery Partners equips business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their businesses on their terms using our 4-step process. We start with a snapshot of where your business is today. Then we help you understand where you want to be and design a custom strategy to get you there. Next, we help you execute that strategy with the assistance of our amazing resource network. And ultimately, you'll be able to transition your business on your terms. What are you waiting for? More time? More revenue? If you want to maximize your business value, it takes time. Now is that time. Get started today by checking us out at www.masterypartners.com or email us at info@masterypartners.com to learn more.
We're back with Conni Francini, President and CEO of Clarity Consulting, and we're talking about burnout. So why is preventing burnout a priority, or why should it be a priority for business owners?
Well, I think we share a common vision in working with business owners that the business owner really is the key lever in the business, right? They don't need to have every solution. They don't need to be the expert in everything, but where they go, so goes the business, right? And so if you are a business owner and you are at some stage of burnout, ultimately that's going to have a cascading effect on the people in your business, and ultimately the work and the outcome and the impact that your business does or does not make. I know that you work with your clients to help them create a sustainable business that they can exit on their own terms, right? And if you are in a state of burnout, it's not going to be sustainable. It is not sustainable if you are exhausted all day long. It is not sustainable if you're not able to make really big, high value decisions. It's not sustainable if you're not able to create a really clear plan to exit your business on your own terms, because maybe you don't even know what it is you're trying to create or what your terms are and why, right? So to me, this burnout issue, speaking to business owners, is just absolutely critical because of the reach and the potential for impact that you have.
I think that you gave all the kind of the ways to be on the lookout for that. And if a business owner doesn't realize how important burnout is, or the side effects of burnout are in their business, they really should be on the lookout for those things. Now, I know you work with business owners and executives who kind of go from being overwhelmed to on the road to burnout to being confident and calm. What does that path look like? And can you maybe share a story or two about that?
Sure. So the kind of model and framework that I've developed really starts with getting the business owner excited about their business again, right? I want them to be excited about their why. Why did they start their business? What are they working toward? Often it is a sense of freedom in their lives, travel, leaving a legacy for their family. So we really start by reigniting that passion for their business again. That's really critical. From there, we move into making it actionable, making it real, so they don't feel like this vision is far off in the distance and there's no way to get from here to there. So I'm all about practical tools. So we start by creating a strategic plan for them that helps them go from where they are today to creating that picture of success for themselves and for their businesses. And that strategic plan encompasses, helping them to create more calm and predictability within their organization. I help them to implement an operating system within their business. If they have one of their own, I'm happy to work with that as well. But knowing through my own experience how important that is, that an operating system creates a sense of clarity and a sense of calm and allows everyone in the organization to row together toward a common vision. And I know that's really important. And then for them as an owner, I work with them on 4 elements in that strategic plan, and they spell out team. The first is time, helping them to use their time in a way that really suits them. You said you like to work early in the morning from 5 to 10 a.m. I do have some business owners who are early birds like you. I have others who absolutely have a completely different lifestyle. They don't want to start until 9:30 in the morning. That works for them and works for their businesses, but really helping them to create and leverage their time as a business owner in a way that works for them. The second is energy. I truly believe and have seen that the more you get energy from your business, the more you are doing things that bring you energy, that just give you all that mojo, as one of them said to me, that gets you out of bed in the morning, that you can't wait to go do these things. The closer we can get business owners doing those things, the better they feel, the more productive they are, the more impact they're making, and the better their business is really thriving. So that's the second one. The A is for activities, and making sure that we're really being super intentional about what the high value activities are that they are doing for their organization, so that they can let go, right? Delegate and let go of the 75 things on their list and really hone in on the things that are most important for them. And then the fourth is mindset. For high achievers, we don't want to let go of things sometimes because we don't want someone else to take it and not do it as well as we think we might, or not do it exactly the right way. But that is ultimately serving as a roadblock. And that's a mindset or a belief that we can help business owners to change, to let go of that, fear, and to really elevate what they're doing in their business, do more of what they love, and be able to delegate with confidence to the rest of their team. So really work through, all of those elements in creating that strategic plan. And then once we have that plan in place, as we're working over time, working together in our momentum sessions, it's all about working with the business owner to answer their biggest questions, solve their biggest challenges, and take advantage of their biggest opportunities, get them out of the weeds and all of the off of the hamster wheel, so they're really thriving in their business, and their business is thriving, and the people in their business are thriving as well. So that's really kind of what that model looks like with them. I have one of my favorite business owners that I'm working with. When she came to me, she said, "I'm just completely overwhelmed. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. I started this business for a great reason, and I hate it now. It drives me crazy. I don't want to go in to the office. I don't want to do anything. Maybe I'll just sell it. But I'm at my wit's end." And she had this wonderful story of why she started her business, and amazing reviews from her customers. Just, to me, so much potential, but she was stuck, just completely stuck. So, getting her reconnected with the why story of why she started her business, helping draw out what her values were as an organization by listening to what her customers had to say, was so re-energizing for her. And she went, "Oh, I actually do something really great. I actually have a really important place in this industry. My customers do actually really value what I do, and I can see the special thing that I'm able to provide for them that is so important, and really makes a difference." And that was the icebreaker for her, right? So then we brought in the strategic planning pieces. We started some goal setting for her. We started helping to bring in some of the operating pieces, helping her craft her vision for how she was going to show up as a CEO, because she came in to start this business without a business background. So she kind of felt a little bit like a fraud, because she didn't think she was a real business owner, but she's built a multi-million-dollar, multi-state business. So she is a business owner. She is a CEO. And so helping her build that confidence and define what that role looks like for her. And just recently we did the launch of the year planning kickoff with her leadership team. So now we're bringing her leadership team in, getting them involved, and that takes such a burden off of her that now she sees that it's not all on her shoulders, right? And it's not, every problem isn't going to get solved by her. And by leveraging her team and bringing them into that vision, getting them re-energized around the why in her business, and putting them into this, these operating tools. She just has seen such a difference in the time that we've worked together. And seeing the change in her is just has just been so rewarding, because she truly has a great business and a great value, and so much to give out there. She plays a really important role in the work that she does.
Just based on your descriptor here, you probably are like me. I get so energized when business owner gets it right, and suddenly I see the light bulbs go off, and the passion starts returning, and all of that. And it sounds like you are just like me. I love your what you call your continuing program, the momentum sessions. It kind of follows Gino Wickman's traction, right? One of those operating systems that we that we know about and we've talked about here on this podcast. But one of the things I wanted to say here is, well, two things. Number one, passion is contagious, but the opposite of it also is contagious, right? If you're no longer passionate, that lack of passion is also contagious, right, for a business owner. And so business owners that don't have that passion for what they're doing anymore really should think about having a conversation with you and talking that through. You know what, I'm just going to go out and say this. It's going to be hurtful, and I'm sorry for that, Connie, but I am so glad that you burned out. Because otherwise you wouldn't develop this program that you have to help other people who are experiencing those things. So I'm not sad that you burned out at all. Sorry about that.
I am happy to be on the other side and happy to be helping
other
people avoid that place. Yeah, seeing a business owner take a vacation and not answer email is a win. I worked with one client last year who doubled her business and still took 3 weeks of vacation to spend with her young children and her family. And that was so important to her. And she said, I just never thought it was possible. I can't believe what I was able to create for my business and my family. And that is it's just amazing. To me, every business owner should be able to have that opportunity. I don't believe in the grind. I don't believe in the hustle. I don't believe in, being a workaholic and that's the badge of honor. I know what can happen because I've been there.
Yes, exactly. Same way for us. We know what can happen in business transactions because we've been there 100 times, right? And so,
Right.
It's that passion for helping others. One other thing before we move on to my next question is, you talked about your friend and your client, the business owner who thought of herself as sort of a fraud. We call that imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
That when you've got that self-doubt and I can't believe anybody trusts it, everybody has that. And recognizing that at some level, everybody, experiences that. It's so helpful to realize, but then to step back and go, look, I did create this. I did this. I did these great things. I've done this. Probably the biggest place where I feel like an imposter is with my children, right? Because there's no manual on doing that, right? But we do it, right? We do it. And it's really surprising to me. The number of folks that I talk to who really kind of experience that imposter syndrome, and if you do, then look for ways to find help for that, because you are good. You've built something, you're doing something, and do that. It's not a message for you, Connie. That's a message for our listeners. So, would you agree with that?
I agree. I don't think there's one business owner executive that I've worked with who doesn't have, doubts about how did I get here and do I belong? I think I see it in sharper focus with the business owners, because most of them they don't typically come through business school. They are an expert in their area of business. They are an education expert. They're a trained accountant. They have their area of expertise. They're a lawyer, right? But running a business for some reason feels like a whole different space. And so that validation, I think, is really important to get grounded in what is real and true, and doing the exercise like I did with this one business owner in really combing through all of her client feedback and reviews online. It was really, really clear, right, what kind of impact her business has, and what her business values were. And when she heard it, it was really validating and really empowering for her. And it really, again, kind of re-energized her and was the whole jumping off point to creating these changes for herself and her team and her business.
when you mention that and going back and looking at those reviews, I've done something. It's a trick that I don't even know why I started. Somebody must have said to do this early in my career. But for the last 35 years, or how many ever years I've been working, I guess we're close to 40 now. I keep a file. It's in my desk drawer. It's all the way at the back because I don't have to pull it out very frequently, but it is handwritten notes, cards, emails, things when people have said something to me that just lit me up, right? That just made me feel really good about myself and about the work that I've done. It's even notes from my children, from my wife. And whenever I'm getting down on myself, and I'm getting frustrated and I start having imposter syndrome, and because I do that as well, all I have to do is pull out that folder. I never get deeper than probably the third item. And I'm back to myself, right? I realize that I am doing some pretty good stuff, right?
Yeah. It's so easy to get bogged down in the problems that we're facing, right? It's what's right in front of us. It's that email. It's the, customer who's upset about something. It's the project that's gone awry. It's so easy to be thinking about those things. And as high achievers, that's often where we go, right? We want to solve a problem. And we can forget about the good things that we've done and the gratitude that others have for the work that we do.
I need to remember to put that on my list. I've got a green box, which are kind of instructions to my family. So, when something eventually happens to me, because it will eventually, I need to put on there, just don't have anybody speak. Just have somebody take this folder and go read it at my funeral. And
that's a good idea. Yeah, that is a good idea.
Yeah, that'll be kind of fun. Look, for business owners who are looking for kind of a burnout prevention for their staff development, what are kind of the top strategies that you teach leaders?
Yeah, so there's a variety of things I focus on. I think for today, I want to focus on two things. I'll focus on two today. One is starting with a human first approach. Again, in business, where it's easy to go right to, here's the email, here's the problem, here's the upset customer. Think in terms of metrics and growth. And I love metrics and I love systems and all of that. It's really important that as leaders that we start with the people first approach and know the people that you're working with as a human being first. So one great question that I ask of leaders is, what is one personal thing you know about each of your team members? Do you know that they're a cat person? Do you know that they have a hobby sewing? Do you know which one, makes pottery? Do you know which one is into photography? Do you know, which one is an adventurer and is going to go skydiving next weekend? What do you know as a human being about the people on your staff? And if you don't, there's a great next step. Go and learn something what makes the people on your staff tick. Because you want to connect as a human being and build trust and a sense of belonging and a sense of I'm a person and I'm valuable and I'm here for a reason. I'm not just a cog in the wheel trying to, deliver X number of dollars in sales revenue. So that would be one, in engendering trust and a sense of community that really helps to combat burnout. The second thing would be to take what I call a coaching approach, an empowering approach in working with your team members. Oftentimes as managers, we feel like we must know all the answers, right? People are coming to me. I'm supposed to be the expert. I should know what to do. It's my job to give you the solution, the solve. And in fact, when you are in some stage of burnout, one of the things is you feel very powerless. So you do want to create an environment where your team members feel more empowered, like they have a say, or they have the ability to make a decision and determine what it is that they need most or where to go next. One of the worst things that someone said to me when I finally was able to share that I was experiencing burnout is, well, you should have done this. From someone who wasn't experiencing burnout and hadn't experienced burnout. And I'm sure the intent was to say, this is solvable. And, I wish you would have come in to me and I would have helped you. And that's not how it felt, because it took all the power away from me. The strategy that works better is to ask questions. So this is just here's one thing you can focus on as a business owner listening to this podcast today. Don't tell and solve, especially when it comes to burnout. Ask questions. So if someone comes to you and says, I'm experiencing burnout, or I'm feeling really stressed, and the answer isn't to say, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z. The response is to say, ask open-ended questions. Where are you struggling most? It's so simple and so open-ended. And again, puts the power in the other person's position. And if someone says, well, I'm going to need to, take a 1-year sabbatical, maybe that's not feasible in your organization. But most of the time, the response is something like, I need help prioritizing my work, right? Or I need to be able to, I need help in making sure that I don't have 6 hours of meetings in an 8-hour workday because I can't get anything else done. I want your help doing that. Sometimes it's as simple as, I'd like to have a printer in my office. That was something that I learned through my work as well. I mean, it could be something really innocuous, but asking really conveys to the other person, I'm listening to you and I want to help you create the solution that you need.
From that movie Office Space, I need my stapler.
It could be something really innocuous that creates a big solution, and you don't know. And so that's where the power is in asking a question.
Now, I will tell you that that's the great argument that I've always had with my chief operating officers. I would always say it's people first, and they would say, no, it's process first. And so, well, you can have all the best processes in the world. Unless we have great people doing them, then we're not getting anything done.
100%. Same goes for systems and IT systems and software. You can have the best software in the world, but if you don't have, people behind it and the why behind what you're doing, it's not going to matter.
I was at a program this morning. The great Hans Amel was talking about really processes are second. It's all about processes get in the way of innovation, right? And so things like that. I love that. People first, ask lots of great questions. Well, perhaps it's going to be that on your answer to this, but I always ask this at the end of our podcast to every one of our guests. The last question is, this podcast is all about maximizing business value. So what's the one most important thing that you would recommend business owners do to build value in their business?
Very simple statement. Put your mask on first. When you're in an airplane.
Okay. All right. So at the time of COVID, and I'm going, okay, what's going on here? Suddenly it dawned on me what you're saying. That's brilliant. Right. Explain that.
When you're in an airplane and they tell you when the oxygen masks drop down, put your own on first before you help someone next to you, the kid, the old woman, whoever it is, right? Put your mask on first. Imagine you're the pilot of the plane as you are the owner of the business. When the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't get the kinds of support and resources and expertise, whether that's with a coach or a consultant or guide and an advisor, if you aren't getting sleep, nothing else is going to come together. You can't grow your business. You can't hire great people. You can't have great innovation. You can't create a business you love. You can't create a legacy for your family. None of that will happen if you don't take care of yourself first. So put your mask on first.
That is great advice, but I'm not going to let you off the hook. For those of our listeners who listen to all of our podcasts, I always ask the bonus question. I'm really looking forward to hearing the answer. What personality trait has gotten you into the most trouble through the years?
Oh, I go back to my 6th grade report card. Mr. Lamb wrote, you can't write this anymore on a report card, but he wrote, "Stubborn as the day is long," on my report card. And I think that's pretty true. I think it's a strength. And I also think it has gotten me in trouble. When I decide I'm doing something, I am doing it like a bulldog. I am just on it. That is it. End of story. So I think it's, again, served me well, but in some cases, I think driven people crazy in the process.
You have that report card and framed it somewhere.
That's great.
Yeah, they used to write notes on there, and that's great. Stubborn as the day is long. I've been accused of that once or twice in my life as well. So how can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
Hop onto my website, which is clarityconsultinginc.com, or feel free to reach out to me via email. It's Conni, Conni, no E, at clarityconsultinginc.com.
This has been such a great conversation. We went a little longer today because this is such valuable information. Thank you, Conni, for being a great guest with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You can find Conni Francini at clarityconsultinginc.com or on LinkedIn. And of course, you can always reach out to me and I will be happy to make a warm introduction to someone who I am convinced is going to become a lifelong friend with me. This is the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their business. Be sure to tune in each week and follow us wherever you found this podcast, and send us in a comment or a suggestion. We love your comments and suggestions for future podcasts. And we promise if there's that burning issue that you've always wanted to learn about, send it to us and we will be happy to explore that in a future podcast. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to look for the signs of burnout in your business and find a way to get back on the right path while you maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.